Irish DNA and the evolution of hazel eyes. They look brown, then green. Almost right after, they look gold. You blink and they've changed again. Hazel eyes don't seem to stay still. They change with the lighting in the room, the clothes you wear, and even with the weather outside. People think they're just a mix of brown and green, but that's not actually the full story, and their story runs deep into the DNA of Ireland's past. In those hazel eyes is a mix of pigments most people don't understand, and a history that dates back thousands of years. What is the evolution of these hazel eyes, and why does Irish DNA have the trait? What hazel eyes really are. When you look closely at someone's eyes, you'll notice that the colored part isn't just a flat shade. It's actually made up of tiny patterns, specks, and rings. This colored part is called the iris, and it has two main layers. The front layer, called the stroma, is where most of the visible color comes from. Behind it is the epithelium, which is darker and doesn't change much in different people. The stroma has cells that contain melanin, which is the same pigment that gives our hair and skin some color. If there's a lot of melanin packed evenly through the stroma, the eyes look brown. If there's very little, light scatters more inside the iris and the eyes look blue. Now, hazel eyes fall right in the middle. There's just enough melanin, but it's not spread evenly. This uneven spread means some parts of the iris look greener, some browner, and often there's a warm golden ring near the pupil, which is often a form of central heterochromia. This is why people call hazel eyes shapeshifters. In bright sunlight, the green tones might stand out more, making them look almost emerald. On a cloudy day or when the person is indoors, the brown tones can take over, giving them a warmer look. Even the clothes they wear can change the color of their eyes. A green shirt might bring out the green, while a brown sweater makes them look deeper and earthier. But the thing is, people often think hazel is just half brown, half green, when in reality, its green tones are due to structural scattering of light in the stroma. This color-changing quality is why hazel eyes are sometimes called mood eyes, even though the change is really about physics, not feelings. With how unique hazel eyes are, how does your DNA decide whether you have them? The genes behind hazel eye color. The major determinant is a line of DNA called the HERC2-OCA2 region, which controls how much melanin your iris makes and influences your iris melanin levels indirectly through melanosome activity. If this switch tells your body to make a lot, you get brown eyes, but if it tells it to make very little, you get blue. Hazel happens when this switch is set somewhere in the middle, but that's only the start of it all. Other genes like SLC24A4, TYRP1, IRF4, SLC45A2, TYR, and TPCN2 tweak the exact shade, the amount of greenish scatter, and whether you get that golden brown ring near the pupil. Think of each gene like a light dimmer, subtly shifting the shade. Even with this knowledge, hazel is still a tricky color to predict. Scientists use systems like HERSPLEX-S, which takes your DNA and calculates your most likely eye color. It's great at spotting blue, green, or brown, but hazel often slips between the cracks because it isn't one exact color. The model might say brown when your eyes are clearly hazel, or green when they look gold in sunlight. This eye color is very common in Ireland, but why? Does it mean their genes are different from others who were natives of the same land? Well, the answer to this question goes back about 10,000 years, when Western hunter-gatherers arrived after the Ice Age, bringing the earliest genetic foundation to the island. Thousands of years later, early European farmers came from the Near East during the Neolithic period, changing not just farming and building styles, but also the genetic mix, including skin, hair, and eye color traits. Then around 4,000 years ago, Bronze Age migrants from the Pontic-Caspian steppe arrived during the Beaker period, adding to the ancestry. These steppe people had different pigmentation genes, and this changed the balance toward lighter eye colors, but the history didn't stop there. In the last 1,000 years, Viking raiders came from Scandinavia, with some settling and blending into the population. A few centuries later, Norman settlers arrived from France and England, adding their own mix to the natives' genes. To back this up, ancient DNA studies have given us proof of this change. Like the Ballinahatti woman from 5,200 years ago in the Neolithic era, who most likely had darker eyes, and the 3 Rathlin Island men and from 4,000 years ago in the Bronze Age, who had lighter features and had alleles linked to blue and hazel eyes. Over thousands of years, these different groups of people cohabited and had children together. And in that slow mixing process, the gene for hazel eyes was formed, and then it never quite left. This long genetic history started the reason why hazel eyes could stick around in Ireland more than in other places. Why hazel shows up more in Ireland. On an island like Ireland, genes can work a little differently than they do in larger, constantly mixed populations. When a group of people live in the same place for hundreds or even thousands of years, with only small groups of newcomers, certain rare combinations of traits have a better chance of sticking around instead of getting lost in all that crowd. Scientists call this drift, which is the random ups and downs of gene frequencies over time, and founder effects, which happen when the original group's DNA lasts even into future generations. In Ireland, the combination of ancient hunter-gatherer, early farmer, and Bronze Age steppe ancestry ended up creating the DNA for intermediate melanin patterns in the iris. Frequency rise of hazel eyes in this region ended up being a random drift, not adaptive, but drift occurred in small, isolated populations. Sure, Ireland's latitude and cloudy skies might influence the balance of eye colors a little over the long term, but the real reason hazel is so common, there comes down to one thing. Once it started to exist, there wasn't enough excess genetic change to overshadow it. That history went on to spread far beyond Ireland by people who left the island over the last few centuries. In Ireland and parts of Britain, hazel green and blue eyes are among the most common in the world, but in just Ireland, surveys have shown that there are more people with hazel eyes in the West and South. In fact, some studies estimate that around 14 to 18% of Irish people and up to 20% of Irish-descended populations in North America have hazel eyes, making it one of the highest rates globally. But how did this happen? Well, as Irish immigrants sailed to America, Canada, Australia, and other corners of the world, they took their genetic eye color patterns with them, blending into new communities but still leaving that hazel eye gene trace. This is why you might meet someone with hazel eyes in Boston, Sydney, or Toronto, and this person might have never set foot in Ireland, but has the same melanin-mixing genes that their great-great-grandparents had back in Cork or Galway. Then when it comes to telling hazel eyes apart from their close cousins, green and amber, it can be pretty tricky, especially since lighting loves to play tricks on us. When you're looking at it in daylight, fluorescent indoor light, or during a sunset, hazel can appear either green or brown, but true amber lacks green tones entirely. This ability to look like it is changing is part of why hazel eyes look so mysterious, and people come up with different myths and misunderstandings of it. Myths and misunderstandings of the hazel eye color. For starters, no, hazel eyes are not caused by one single hazel gene that you either have or don't have. And they're definitely not some rare genetic trait that proves Celtic blood. While hazel is more common in Northwest Europe, especially in Ireland and parts of Britain, it also exists in places as far apart as the Middle East, South America, and Central Asia. This is because eye color is a polygenic trait, meaning it's influenced by multiple genes, which can combine in similar ways even in unrelated populations. For example, hazel eyes can be found among some Lebanese communities in the Middle East and in parts of Brazil and Argentina with mixed European, indigenous, and African ancestry. As for the misconception that Ireland's cloudy skies or damp weather somehow created hazel eyes, that's more cultural belief than fact. Climate can influence different kinds of populations over thousands of years, but hazel eyes' history is mostly about how certain genetic combinations popped up, survived, and spread through people moving and mixing. When you put the myths aside, you'll start to see hazel eyes in a much different way, and not just as a strange eye color. Medically, hazel doesn't bring superhuman vision or magical disease resistance, but just like all lighter eye colors, it can be slightly more sensitive to glare and certain eye conditions than darker eyes. In cultural terms, hazel has been included in Irish folklore for centuries, like the claim that the hazel tree was said to give wisdom and second sight. In reality, this actually has nothing to do with science, but everything to do with how people saw the beauty of hazel eyes as a mystery in their world. Modern migration and intermarriage could make hazel more common in new regions. In the end, hazel is a color that carries centuries of change in every glance. To stay updated on more ancient history and recent impressive DNA analyses on ancient history like this, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next videos. Until next time.